The disappearance. On the quiet morning of September 14th, 2011, the town of Willow Creek had no reason to believe anything unusual would happen. The school buses were running, the bakery on Miller Street released its familiar smell of warm bread into the crisp autumn air, and the locals moved about with a slow, steady rhythm that had defined the town for decades. Nothing ever truly went wrong in Willow Creek, at least, not until that day. 26-year-old Lena Harwood lived in a small cottage at the edge of Pine Ridge Forest, an area many locals considered peaceful, though some called it unnervingly isolated. Lena didn't mind the isolation. She'd grown up around nature, spending her childhood afternoons sketching birds and wildflowers. After graduating art school, she returned home to care for her mother, who passed away a few years later. Since then, Lena had settled into a quiet life of freelance illustration, morning jogs, and lonely dinners warmed in the microwave. Her routine was predictable, so predictable, in fact, that a sudden disappearance felt impossible. That Wednesday morning, Lena was seen jogging on Pine Ridge Trail at 6:12 a.m. by retired firefighter Caleb Morris, who often walked his dog, Luna, before sunrise. He reported nothing strange about her behavior. She waved at him, as she always did, before running deeper into the forest. She wore a gray hoodie, black leggings, and her usual running shoes. She carried a small blue water bottle. This casual wave would become the last confirmed sighting of her. When Lena failed to return home by noon, no one noticed. When she didn't respond to a client email by 2 p.m., no one thought twice. But when her best friend, Emily Kessler, arrived at the cottage at 5:30 p.m. for their weekly dinner and found the house dark, the living room untouched, and Lena's phone plugged in and fully charged on the kitchen counter, she felt the first pulse of unease. Emily called Lena's name inside the house. Nothing. She sent a text. No reply. She waited a few minutes, pacing the living room, trying to remain calm. But something felt undeniably wrong. Lena never left the house without her phone, never. At 6:03 p.m., Emily called the police. The initial search. Deputy Mark Ellison from the Willow Creek Sheriff's Office arrived first. He was a patient, level-headed officer with over a decade of experience. But the moment he stepped inside Lena's home, something pricked at his instincts. There were no signs of struggle, no broken glass, no overturned furniture, nothing missing. But the air in the room felt still too still. Her running shoes weren't in the house. Her keys were missing. Her small jogging pack was gone. But everything she always carried with her, remained untouched. By 7 p.m., the sheriff's office officially declared her a missing person, and within an hour, the search had begun. Dozens of volunteers, firefighters, and officers combed Pine Ridge Trail with flashlights and dogs. Drones were brought in. The terrain was dense but familiar. The trail was popular, and in autumn the leaves created patches of gold across the forest floor. It was beautiful, but that beauty quickly became haunting as the search stretched into the night. No tracks, no clothing, no signs of an animal attack. Nothing. When the sun rose the next morning, the search expanded. Officers interviewed joggers, hikers, and anyone who had been near the trail. Every lead fizzled out. No one had seen or heard anything unusual. The disappearance was clean as if she had been plucked from the earth. News traveled fast. Willow Creek had only a few thousand residents, and suddenly everyone was talking. Coffee shops buzzed with speculation. Parents kept their children closer. People who once walked the forest path without fear now avoided it altogether. Emily begged investigators to widen their search, convinced that someone had taken her. But without evidence, all possibilities remained open. Then, on the third day, the case took its first unexpected turn. The blue water bottle. A search team moving along a narrow section of Pine Ridge Creek spotted something shiny trapped between two rocks. It was partially submerged, its exterior scratched, but unmistakable. A small blue water bottle. Lena's water bottle. It was found a mile beyond the point where Caleb Morris had last seen her jogging, but the location didn't make sense. The trail didn't lead there. The incline was steep, the terrain rocky. It wasn't a place she would go willingly. The bottle showed no fingerprints washed away by the creek, but there was a small dent on the side, as if it had been dropped with force. Hope surged through the search team. They finally had something tangible, something real. But when detectives mapped the area and followed the creek, they realized something chilling. The water bottle was found upstream, not downstream. In other words, it hadn't floated there. Someone had placed it, or someone had been there with her. The discovery changed everything. Deeper investigation. Detectives returned to the trail's entrance with a new approach. They reviewed all available traffic camera footage from nearby roads. They re-interviewed joggers and hikers. They collected prints from Lena's house, even though they knew many belonged to friends or delivery services. Finally, they began looking into people from Lena's life. Friends and relatives describe her as calm, creative, introverted. No enemies, no financial trouble, no history of running away. Her art clients confirmed she had future projects scheduled, and she had ordered new supplies just 2 days before disappearing. Then detectives found something odd on her laptop. A series of search queries from the night before she went missing. How to report suspicious behavior. Signs someone is following you. Local trespassing laws. When Detective Avery Thompson saw those searches, she felt the weight of the case shift. Was Lena being watched? And if she was, why hadn't she told anyone? The next discovery made things even more complicated. The neighbor's statement. Lena's neighbor, Jonas Dempsey, a soft-spoken man in his 50s who lived about 200 yards away, claimed that 2 nights before Lena vanished, he saw a white pickup truck parked on the side of the road near the forest edge, a spot where cars rarely stopped. He didn't recognize the truck. He didn't see who was inside. He didn't think much of it. But then he added something else. On the night before her disappearance, he heard a noise something like a door shutting or footsteps near the tree line behind Lena's cottage. He thought it might have been wildlife. When questioned further, Jonas hesitated. Maybe I should have checked, he said quietly, almost whispering. Maybe she wasn't alone out there. The deputies took his statement seriously, but with no license plate, no description of the driver, and no camera footage in that rural area, they were left with speculation and anxiety. If someone had been watching Lena, had they taken her? Or had she left the trail for some unknown reason and encountered the wrong person at the wrong time? The investigation was stuck again. Days turned into a week, then a week into 2. The search efforts continued, but full-scale searches were phased out. Willow Creek was left with unanswered questions and growing fear. But then came the discovery that changed the entire case. One tiny clue. 2 weeks after Lena vanished, Deputy Alyson decided to redo the walk from Lena's cottage to the trail entrance, hoping to notice something the team had missed. It was a routine, almost desperate move. He had walked the path multiple times already. This time, though, something caught his eye. Near a cluster of thick bushes just 10 feet from the trail started an area previously overlooked because of dense branches, he saw something faintly glimmer. He stepped closer, brushing the branches aside. There, partially buried in dry leaves, was a single silver charm, a tiny crescent moon pendant attached to a broken chain. He knew it instantly. Lena wore a crescent moon necklace every day. Every photo on her social media page showed it. Every friend confirmed it was her favorite piece, one of the few items her mother had given her before passing. And here it was, broken, dropped, hidden under leaves. This wasn't something she would lose casually. This wasn't something that fell while jogging. This was something torn. And suddenly, Lena's disappearance was no longer an unknown mystery. It was an abduction. And this tiny charm was the first real evidence of a struggle. Deputy Alyson bagged it carefully. He stood in silence for a long moment, staring at the charm in his gloved hand. This little piece of metal, lighter than a feather, carried the weight of the entire investigation. He looked at the trail behind him, peaceful, quiet, deceptive. And for the first time since the case began, he felt a new certainty. Whoever took Lena had been waiting. And they were smart enough to leave almost nothing behind. But they had made one mistake. One tiny, crucial mistake. The broken necklace. And it was about to change everything up to watch her in the woods. The tiny crescent moon charm didn't look like much inside its evidence bag. Just a sliver of silver, glinting faintly under the fluorescent lights of the sheriff's office. But everyone in the room understood its weight. It was the first undeniable sign that Lena hadn't simply wandered off or had an accident. Something had happened to her, something violent, something deliberate. Detective Avery Thompson studied the pendant closely. She'd handled hundreds of cases in her career, but there was something about this one that unsettled her. Maybe it was the stillness of the forest where Lena was last seen. Maybe it was a town fear simmering just beneath the surface. Or maybe it was the idea that someone had stalked Lena without anyone noticing. She placed the evidence bag gently on the table. This wasn't dropped, she said softly. It was pulled. Deputy Alyson nodded. The chain was broken. Clean break. No signs of animal interference. Meaning a struggle, Detective Thompson said. Meaning she fought. And that changed everything. Reconstructing the last moments. Investigators began reconstructing Lena's likely path that morning. If she left the house around 6 a.m., she would have reached the start of the trail by 6:05. The retired firefighter, Caleb Morris, saw her only minutes later, which meant the struggle must have occurred almost immediately. The broken pendant was found just 10 feet from the trail entrance, hidden beneath thick brush, not visible unless one stepped close, pushed branches aside, and looked. That suggested the attacker planned it. Someone had waited for her close enough to grab her, quick enough to overpower her, and silent enough that no one heard. Detective Thompson pressed a finger to her temple as she studied the map of the area. The attacker knew her routine, she said. They knew she runs. They knew what time she leaves. Someone who's watched her, Alyson added, for days, maybe weeks. The thought brought a cold silence to the room. The stranger in the white truck. Investigators revisited the neighbor, Jonas Dempsey, who had reported seeing a white pickup parked near the woods 2 nights before Lena vanished. This time, they questioned him more thoroughly. Jonas sat nervously at his kitchen table, wringing his hands as Detective Thompson leaned forward. Mr. Dempsey, I need you to think carefully, she said. The truck, can you remember anything else? Stickers? Rust? Headlight damage? A sound? Jonas shook his head. It was dark. I only saw the shape and color. But... He hesitated. Thompson didn't rush him. But what? She asked. I didn't mention this earlier because I wasn't sure. But that same week, I heard something else. A few nights before she disappeared, around midnight, I saw movement near her tree line. A figure, not an animal. Could you see any details? Thompson asked. No, Jonas admitted. Just that someone was there. A watcher, a careful one. Someone who knew how to move silently. Someone who waited until midnight, when most lights in Willow Creek were off. Detective Thompson's jaw tightened. Why didn't you report it earlier? Jonas looked ashamed. Because I didn't want to sound paranoid. And I didn't know anything was wrong until she vanished. Thompson didn't scold him. Many witnesses stayed quiet out of uncertainty. But now, that silence felt like a mistake. Mr. Dempsey, she said, from now on, anything you hear or see, no matter how small, you tell us immediately. He nodded quickly. Of course. A new lead emerges. With a pendant and Jonas's new details, search teams returned to Pine Ridge Trail with renewed focus. They re-examined every inch of the surrounding woods. This time, they moved slower. They used metal detectors, thermal cameras, dogs trained to detect not just people, but clothing, fibers, and disturbed soil. On the second day of this renewed search, one of the canine units alerted near a narrow deer path branching away from the main trail, a path barely visible unless someone already knew where it was. Detective Thompson pushed through the brush carefully, her boots sinking into soft earth. The path curved sharply, hidden behind a fallen oak, and opened into a small clearing barely large enough for two people to stand side by side. A secluded spot, a perfect place to ambush someone. And on the ground, half buried in soil, lay a faint footprint. The print was shallow, blurred by weather and time. But it was their partial tread from a boot much larger than Lena's. Male, Thompson murmured, probably heavy-set, maybe 6 feet or taller. She crouched, studying the indentation. He stood here. He waited. Deputy Ellison swallowed hard, so he dragged her off the main trail. "Oh, carried her," she said. "This direction." She pointed deeper into the forest, into shadows unbroken by sunlight. The direction made her uneasy. The vegetation was thick, the terrain uneven, a place where screams wouldn't carry far. The search was about to get a lot more focused and a lot more dangerous. Lena's state of mind. While physical evidence mounted, a parallel investigation was unfolding, a psychological one. Detectives dug into Lena's searches from the night before. How to report suspicious behavior. Signs someone is following you. Local trespassing laws. These weren't random. They were deliberate. And they painted a picture of a woman who felt threatened. Detective Thompson visited Lena's cottage again, alone this time, wanting to understand the victim's mindset. She walked slowly through rooms, absorbing the silence, trying to feel what Lena might have felt in her final days. On Lena's desk were rough sketches of birds and wildflowers. But tucked beneath the newest pages was something different, a page torn from a sketchbook showing a rough drawing of a truck, a white truck. The angles were approximate, but the details stood out, a dent above the left wheel well, and a long scratch across the passenger side door. This wasn't art. This was observation, a record, a way of remembering something important. Thompson whispered to herself. She saw the truck, and she didn't want to forget it. Whoever drove that truck wasn't a random visitor. They were someone she found suspicious enough to draw, and suspicious enough to search how to report. Detective Thompson carefully removed the sketch and placed it in her evidence folder. The man with no name. With this new piece of evidence, officers expanded their search for white pickup trucks registered within a 30-mile radius. Hundreds of results came up, too many to check individually. So they focused on drivers with violent histories, trespassing charges, stalking complaints, restraining orders, or unstable backgrounds. One name stood out. Marcus Hale, age 38. 2 years earlier, he'd been reported for following a woman home from a grocery store. No charges were filed, but the report painted him as fixated, observant, and quiet in a way that seemed wrong. He owned a white pickup truck, registered in Willow Creek. But when officers went to speak with him, Marcus wasn't home. His truck wasn't in the driveway. And according to his landlord, he hadn't been seen in 3 days. Detective Thompson felt a chill creep across her spine. "We need to find that truck," she told the team. "Put out a bolo," Deputy Ellison said. "Statewide. And check every storage facility, abandoned lot, and private trail near Pine Ridge," Thompson ordered. He could be hiding that vehicle. The manhunt had officially begun. The forest hides what it wants to hide. Search teams returned to the day path near the footprint, following the direction the attacker likely moved. This part of the forest was dense, branches twisted together like fingers, ground uneven and riddled with roots. Sunlight barely reached the floor. As they pushed deeper, they found something else. A strip of fabric caught on a bramble. Deputy Ellison lifted it carefully. It was stretchy, synthetic, part of a hoodie, gray, just like the one Lena wore. The fabric was torn violently, suggesting a struggle. Nearby, the dog unit barked twice, signaling assent. Detective Thompson's pulse quickened. "Spread out," she ordered. "Look for disturbed soil, broken branches, anything." For an hour, the search continued. Nothing, just silence and trees and the weight of time. Then, just when hope began to thin, one of the deputies shouted, "Over here!" The group rushed over. There, at the base of a large fallen birch, the ground had been disturbed, freshly, compared to the surrounding soil. Leaves brushed aside, dirt darker, softer. Detective Thompson knelt beside it. This wasn't a grave. This was a drag mark. The earth had been scraped in 2 long lines, impressions consistent with heels or boots being pulled across the ground. The pattern led deeper into the forest. "Follow it," Thompson commanded. They did. The mark stretched nearly 20 yards before stopping at a cluster of rocks near a slope. The ground below slanted sharply downward into an abandoned quarry, a place children once snuck into but had been fenced off years ago. The fence was broken in several places. Someone knew this area. Someone knew the paths no one else walked. The quarry. The abandoned quarry was a pit of gray stone and overgrown brush. Rusty equipment lay forgotten. Pools of stagnant water reflected the sky in distorted patches. Detective Thompson peered over the edge, scanning for movement, for clothing, for anything. "Careful," Ellison warned, stepping beside her. "Loose rocks." "This is where he brought her," Thompson said quietly. "It's secluded. No houses nearby. Perfect hiding spot." The team carefully descended into the quarry, making sure not to disturb potential evidence. Halfway down, Ellison spotted something, a scuff mark on a rock, like rubber scraped against stone. He pointed. "Boot print." "Possibly," Thompson said. "Or Lena's shoe." They documented it and continued. At the quarry floor, the air felt different, colder, heavier. Detective Thompson's flashlight beam skimmed over fallen metal beams, weeds, old tire tracks, and broken glass. Then, Near an overturned barrel, something metallic caught her eye. A single key. A house key. Detective Thompson carefully flipped it over. "This is a cottage key," she said. "The same style Lena used." It was scratched, bent slightly at the tip, as if stepped on or torn from a key ring. She closed her eyes for a moment. Lena had been here, and she had fought. The footprint in the dust. Just when they were about to call in a forensics team, Deputy Ellison noticed a faint impression in the quarry dust near the barrel of boot print, more distinct than the earlier one. He photographed it, measured it, and compared it to the partial print found on the day path. Same size, same tread pattern, same person. Detective Thompson felt her heartbeat quicken. They were getting closer, so close that the reality of what Lena may have endured wrapped around her chest like a vice. Ellison stepped beside her. If he brought her here, he didn't stay. No campsites, no makeshift shelter. Which means she could still be alive, Thompson said. She didn't say the second possibility, though it hung heavily in the air, or he moved her somewhere else. The call that changed everything. They were preparing to leave the quarry when Thompson's radio crackled. It was dispatch. "Detective Thompson, we just received a report. A white pickup truck matching the description has been found." Thompson stiffened. "Where?" "Abandoned on Route 26, near the old sawmill." "How long ago?" "Caller says it wasn't there this morning." Thompson didn't waste a second. "Everyone back to the vehicles. Now." Ellison hurried beside her. "Do we know if it's Marcus Hale's truck?" "We will soon," she said, already heading up the quarry slope. The atmosphere shifted. The team wasn't just searching now. They were chasing. Whoever took Lena had slipped up. They had left the truck behind. And if the truck had been abandoned recently, the kidnapper was on the move. And they were running out of time to up the final path. The old sawmill on Route 26 had been abandoned for nearly 15 years. Tall grass swallowed a gravel drive. The windows were boarded, and the roof sagged under decades of rain and neglect. Locals avoided the place. Kids used to dare each other to break in, until one of them fell through a weak floorboard and authorities sealed the building. Now, for the first time in years, the area was alive with movement. Deputy Ellison, Detective Thompson, and 2 patrol units pulled up behind crime scene tape hastily strung between rusty metal posts. A deputy pointed toward the side of the building. "There," he said. "White pickup. No plates." Thompson and Ellison approached slowly. The truck was coated in dust, as if driven down date roads. Pine needles clung to the windshield. The driver's side window was cracked. But what stood out most was a deep scratch across the passenger door and a dent above the front wheel well. Exactly like the sketch Lena made. "Run the VIN," Thompson ordered. A deputy typed quickly into his handheld device. "Registered to Marcus Hale." Thompson exhaled sharply. There it was, the confirmation they'd been waiting for. She circled the vehicle, careful not to disturb footprints in the soft date. The passenger door was slightly open. Ellison looked at her. "Ready?" Thompson nodded, drawing her flashlight. Together, they pulled the door wide. Inside, the cab was a mess. Fast food wrappers, muddy footprints on the floorboards, a torn jacket in the back seat. Nothing useful at first glance. Then Thompson leaned deeper in. There, wedged between the seat cushions, was something small and dark. A hair tie, gray fabric, same shade as Lena's hoodie. Thompson's jaw tightened. She was in this truck. "Maybe alive," Ellison added. "Maybe recently." A deputy approached. "Detective, we spotted footprints leading into the back of the sawmill." Every muscle in Thompson's body tensed. "Then let's move." The sawmill. The entrance gaped like a mouth, swallowing sunlight. The scent of old wood, metal, and damp earth filled the air. Thompson motioned for the deputies to stay quiet. Inside, dust floated like ash in narrow beams of light breaking through gaps in the walls. The building groaned softly as wind brushed against its frame. Footprints, large, boot-sized, tracked through the dirt. Fresh, not more than a day old. They followed the prints past rusted machinery, piles of rotting crates, and discarded tools. Ellison pointed. Another door, leading downstairs. The basement. Thompson's heart thudded loudly. If Marcus Hale had held Lena anywhere, this would be the place. She raised a hand. Flashlights on. Weapons ready. The deputies clicked their lights on, illuminating narrow stairwell steps that dipped into darkness. Dust coated the rails. Cobwebs hung in strands like thin curtains. Halfway down, Thompson noticed something unsettling. Scratches on the wall. Not from tools. Not from animals. Fingernail scratches. Her breath caught in her throat. "Move," she ordered, her voice low but forceful. At the bottom, the group entered a wide, cold basement lined with old lumber. A broken table lay on its side. Shattered bottles glittered in the corners. A rope dangled from one of the ceiling beams. Frayed, snapped. Ellison whispered she was held here. Thompson scanned the floor. More drag marks. More scuffing. Signs of struggle everywhere. Then she spotted something near the far wall. A piece of chain. Silver. She moved closer. It was a remaining half of Lena's broken necklace. She swallowed hard. "Lena, you fought like hell." Ellison crouched beside her. But where is she now? Hale abandoned the truck. He cleared out. He's not stupid. He's on the run. "Oh," Thompson said quietly, "is moving her." Before Ellison could respond, a deputy's voice cut through the basement. "Detective, look." A small, crumpled object lay in a corner, half hidden in dust. Thompson lifted it with gloved hands. A receipt, time-stamped, just 8 hours earlier. From a gas station 20 miles east, near the foothills. Marcus Hale had been there. And Lena might have been with him. Thompson stood quickly. We're heading east. Now. The chase through the foothills. The convoy of squad cars raced down the highway, sirens off, lights flashing. The foothills rose in the distance like jagged gray teeth. Sparse forests, winding dirt roads, abandoned cabins. Plenty of places to hide. Dispatch radioed in. Detective Thompson, be advised, a hiker reported seeing a man matching Hale's description carrying someone into the old mining trails near Ridgeview Canyon. Thompson gripped the steering wheel. Hale isn't running, she said aloud. He's hiding, huh? Somewhere remote. Somewhere he knows. Ellison checked the map. Those trails lead into dead ends and old shafts. Dangerous terrain. Perfect for a man like him, Thompson replied. They turned off the main road onto a narrow dirt path. Trees closed in overhead, their branches forming a tunnel of shadows. Dust swirled behind them. Finally, they reached a clearing where the trail forked three ways. Fresh tire tracks cut sharply to the right. Ellison pointed. That way. Thompson nodded. Everyone out. We continue on foot. Into the canyon. The trail narrowed as they moved deeper into Ridgeview Canyon. The air grew cooler, the light dimmer. Rocks jutted out like broken bones. The sound of distant water echoed faintly. Then Ellison stopped abruptly. On the ground lay a small bundle, fabric, crumpled. Thompson crouched and lifted it. A sleeve torn from a gray hoodie. Her pulse thundered. It's close, she whispered. They moved faster now, boots crunching over gravel. Another 50 yards, and they saw it, a fresh footprint in the dirt. Then another, then two sets, one heavy, one small, dragged. Ellison's voice was a whisper. Lena's. They followed the tracks until the trail ended abruptly at a wide rock overlook. Beyond it, the canyon dropped sharply. No sign of Hale. No sign of Lena. Thompson scanned the terrain. He wouldn't go off the edge. There must be another path. Ellison pointed to a narrow crevice between two boulders, almost invisible unless someone was inches away. Hey! The crevice formed a steep path downward. Fresh dirt shifted under Thompson's boots. He took her this way. They descended carefully, hugging the canyon wall. At the bottom, a small clearing opened before them. Hidden, isolated, silent. And there, leaning against a tree, half-conscious, her wrists bound but alive, Lena Harwood. The rescue. Thompson sprinted first, dropping to her knees beside Lena. Lena, it's Avery Thompson. You're safe now. Lena blinked slowly, eyes glassy and unfocused. Dirt streaked her face. Her lips were cracked. She tried to speak, but only managed a weak rasp. Ellison cut the rope from her wrists and ankles. Thompson wrapped her in her jacket, checking her pulse. She's dehydrated but alive, Thompson said, voice trembling with relief. But relief didn't last long. A sound echoed through the canyon. A voice. Male. Rough. You shouldn't have come here. Thompson stewed sharply, drawing her weapon. From the shadows of the tree line, Marcus Hale stepped out, breathing hard, sweat streaking down his temples. He held a hunting knife, the blade catching the light. His eyes were wild. She was mine, he muttered. She talked to me. She looked at me. She knew. Thompson kept her weapon trained on him. Marcus Hale dropped the knife. He shook his head slowly. No, I won't let you take her. Ellison raised his voice. Drop it, Marcus. Now. But Hale wasn't listening. He lunged. A shot rang through the canyon. Then silence. Hale collapsed onto the date, the knife clattering from his hand. Thompson breathed out shakily, lowering her weapon. Ellison moved in carefully, checking Hale's pulse. He's alive, Ellison confirmed. Barely. Ambulance. Thompson nodded. He'll face trial. Lena deserves that. She knelt beside Lena again, brushing dirt from her cheek. You fought hard, Thompson whispered. You held on. We found you. Lena blinked weakly, tears forming. Thank you, she whispered. The aftermath. Lena was airlifted to Willow Creek General Hospital. The entire town waited with bated breath as news spread. Doctors confirmed she would recover. Dehydration. Minor injuries. But alive. Detectives pieced together the timeline over the following days. Marcus Hale had watched her for weeks. He parked near her cottage, watched her nightly routine, drew closer each day. Lena noticed. She searched how to report suspicious behavior. She sketched his truck. She tried to prepare, but Marcus made his move too fast. He ambushed her near the trail entrance, dragged her through the forest, held her in the quarry, then moved her to the canyon when police got too close. The broken necklace had been the key, the tiny clue that cracked everything open. Without it, Detective Thompson knew they might never have found her. The last visit. 2 weeks later, when Lena was well enough, Detective Thompson visited her at the hospital. Lena sat near the window, sunlight warming her face. You saved yourself, Thompson told her. Your searches, your sketch, your necklace, those were the clues that led us to you. Lena looked down at her hands, trembling slightly. I thought no one would believe me. I didn't want to overreact. You weren't overreacting, Thompson said gently. You were in danger, and you listened to your instincts. Lena exhaled shakily. What happens now? Hale goes to trial, Thompson said. You'll have support, and Willow Creek is safer because of you. Lena nodded slowly, eyes glistening. Thompson stood to leave. And Lena, remember this. One small action, one tiny clue can save a life. Lena smiled faintly. I know. As Thompson walked out of the hospital room, the weight of the case finally lifted. The investigation had been long, difficult, and terrifying, but it ended the way she prayed every case would, with a survivor. Epilogue. The tiny clue. Months later, the crescent moon charm was returned to Lena in a small evidence bag. She pressed it between her fingers, the metal cool and familiar. It was bent, scratched, and broken, but it was hers. A reminder of the struggle, the fear, the courage, and the moment that changed everything. Because in the end, that tiny charm almost invisible in the leaves had been the reason she was found, and Lena never let it out of her sight again.